So I'll probably start with a quick round of introductions. So my name is Krishna Tyagi, and I lead the Web3 practice for KPMG in India. Our focus right now is to build solutions for large enterprises, help them, take the enterprise route towards blockchain, set up some of the COEs, processes, and also build some of the products. We are working with a very leading layer one service provider to build some of the infrastructure products in wallet and credential management space. I'll hand it over to Arpit to introduce himself, and then we'll go around the room to introduce.
Thank you, Krishna. Hi, everyone. My name is Arpit. I work with Near Foundation. I am Managing Director for Southeast Asia and Middle East. So I take care of business development activity in this region. I have been in blockchain space for over 3 years now and have been in enterprises for around 10 years. So I started my career in enterprise, and I have worked with over 50 enterprises during this time, mostly on the tech side. Super excited to be part of this amazing panel. Excited to be here.
Thanks, Arpit. Hi, guys. My name is Kamakshi. I take care of business development for Avalanche's enterprise and institution, organization. And I started my blockchain journey in 2017. I was a consultant, blockchain consultant with Tech Mahindra, consulted multiple enterprises, Airbus, Boeing, Abu Dhabi Municipality, and then worked in Polygon for a year, and now I'm at Avalanche. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Love this panel. We are the only people standing between you and the done for the day job. So thank you for coming in. I work with Geo. I'm working on the browser Geosphere, and I had some of the things that we are trying to do in Web3, and hopefully we can come out with some things thanks to the community that we have in Web3, which is very encouraging and very welcoming.
Yeah, so before we start the panel, I would just want to give a little overview on the value chain of how enterprises actually are structured, so that we can discuss it a little more detail. The panel would be more of a discussion to figure out why there is a need for blockchain in businesses or large enterprises. So before that, so most large enterprises you can structure them into two parts. One is more, which is consumer facing, right? Revenue generating functions and marketing functions. Apart from that, if it's a manufacturing, it will be manufacturing operation function, then back offices, right? And if it's a tech company, then product development and the other back office functions. Now, most decisions in an enterprise are either driven by the fact that it can increase your revenue or user side, or else it can help you save some costs, right? That's how most enterprises think. Now, the first principle thinking is everything is going great in an enterprise's life today. So why there is a need for blockchain? Why do we need it even? So my question to Arpit is, why do you think that there is a business case or there is a fundamental need of a new technology today? What's wrong with the existing technology?
Okay, so I think before I go to that question, if I can do a quick check, like how many people in the audience, they have some enterprise background or some experience with enterprise? Okay, so we have quite few people in the audience, right? So I will, in fact, from this question, I will go to an even more fundamental question. And the question is, as an enterprise, do you want to just keep on incrementally improving for that, 0.x% of profitability in terms of, by improving your operational efficiency and stuff? Or do you want to completely redefine that productivity curve that you are operating or that the industry is operating, right? So that's the real question that any enterprise has to ask today. And why do I say that? Today, if you look at all the enterprises that we see, everything pretty much in the industry is built on this foundation which we call internet, which is so prevalent that we are just surrounded by internet. Everything that we do is some way or the other affected by that internet, right? Including all the applications that you use, all the data that moves on the net, right? Now that's the foundation on which everything stands. Now, if I tell you that foundation has changed, I'm not saying is changing, Web3 is coming. What I'm telling you is that that foundation has already changed. So for enterprises, the question is not, if they want to do Web3. It is no longer, a luxury if they want to do it or not do it. The question is, when should they do it? How fast should they do it? And how should they actually go about implementing that and building on this new foundation that is coming up? So that's what I think about this.
Pawas, do you want to add something onto this? Like, you have also taken a step towards this direction, and I'm sure that, considering coming from a large conglomerate, it's very difficult to build that business case, and because it's a fundamentally, change in the way you do the business, right? What challenge? The question one is, what challenges you faced, and do you really think that there is a business case, and what made you took this direction?
Yeah, so if you look at the large size businesses, and a lot of them, like you rightly mentioned, these are single digit incremental boast in market share. Now, when you look at those businesses which is so fully ingrained and established, you are either looking for opportunities for consumer surplus or you are looking for cost efficiencies. Yeah. Unless there are massive, you can say, cost efficiencies, not in year one, not in year two, but in year three, because enterprise business, they don't work 1 year or 2 years, they will work for minimum 3-year cycle. When you find those things, only then you will deploy. And I have personally seen some of the enterprises who are facing issues with counterfeiting of their products, thanks to internet. We all face internet products. I'm sure some of you have returned the products because what you got was completely different. Counterfeiting was the major issue, and that organization deployed a really good solution of blockchain. But the change management required from them for a normal retail company to think that they have to hire somebody in cybersecurity, they completely actually black out. What are you talking about? Cybersecurity and us. So I think there are cultural changes and there are massive change management things that needs to be considered when, as an enterprise, you start thinking about blockchain. There is a consumer surplus, obviously, that needs to be obtained as well. And it goes to the numerous aspects of how much and how fast. If you look at the OTT industry overall, they have started doing the consumer surplus for sure. And it's very subtle, but it's very powerful, I believe. If you look at a lot of OTT companies, what they have started doing is early access, which in Web3 world, you will say an NFT that you get an early access. So there are solutions that are already being tested to understand that whether for the same item, can somebody pay more because they want it now. So there are opportunities for blockchain, but will it completely replace the current systems? I don't think so. It's an augmented tech which will give massive either cost efficiencies or consumer plus. But yeah, enterprises will have to take that call as and when they are ready, because it's not just a tech you shift, it's a mind shift in the organization and the people, and it's a process change rather than just a tech change. And it takes time.
And I think enterprises as well as the infrastructure, once both of them are probably at a junction where both of them can converge together, that's probably the way forward. So my question to Kamakshi, you is, since you at Avalanche work with a lot of enterprises and with various industries, so what do you think in terms of various industries, which are the industries where most enterprise use cases are being adopted, and what is the reason behind that?
I think the industries which right now we are seeing the highest rate of adoption is with the government agencies, to be very honest. Even though we say India government is anti-blockchain, or not blockchain, anti-crypto. That's the word we don't like to use. But to be very honest, Indian government, state government specifically, multiple agencies are pro-blockchain. And the major use case which we are seeing right now is on certificates. It could be any state government having municipality, and these municipalities giving out certificates. Could be your marriage certificate, could be your driving licenses. So imagine that's the scale of this implementation. Like right now, today we just announced with our partner, which is Ava Labs, and we have announced a use case on certificates. So IEEE is an organization which creates multiple educational courses. And they wanted a way wherein they can disperse those certificates to the end person, and then they can actually go back and verify that this is a legitimate certificate and they have actually taken that course. And with this particular use case, we'll be dispersing around 500K certificates in 2 years. Now, this is a small implementation. Think about the scale when we go to government side of things. Billions of people doing having multiple, authentic documentation getting dispersed by government. So that's one. The other side of enterprises, we are seeing loyalty being adopted, very frequently. I think Arpit would also agree that, with different enterprises, especially in the retail side, a loyalty program is a very big use case. Like after Starbucks, which Polygon did, and now we are seeing with multiple, blockchains pitching to different organizations. Like, for example, in India, we have Flipkart use case. They're also trying to build that loyalty use case. So like this, we have supply chain. I work with Airbus prior to this. I work with Abu Dhabi municipality doing land registration use case, because right now in our even ecosystem, we have, paper documents. All these documents can be fudged so easily. So there has to be a mechanism which is digital, transparent, immutable, and cannot have any problem of scam. So these are the use cases we are seeing in the enterprise side of things.
So, Arpit, since these large enterprises can be very complex to navigate because there are so many processes, so many people, and sometimes if let's say a startup is trying to approach large enterprises, whether let's say burn of whatever amount of money that is being burned and sales cycle of 6-7 months, it probably doesn't see a conversion very fast. You have been operating in the space for long, and you've mentioned about 400 plus deals. What worked for you, and how somebody can navigate through enterprise and work with enterprise on the blockchain side? Because asking this question because some of the builders are sitting outside here, and probably you can share some of the things that worked for you.
So you want to know all the trade secrets,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Okay. Okay. So but I'll take it. There are a lot of misconceptions about selling to enterprises, and one of the misconceptions is that the sales cycle is long, right? So what I have observed in my experience, a lot of times it is a matter of identifying right team, right person in an enterprise account, okay? So purely from a sales point of view, it's a matter of qualification. A lot of times and Web3 is a very interesting space. Everybody would love to talk about Web3. And everybody would love to discuss Web3 with you, but that does not mean that everyone has that authority to make a decision, right? So, it boils down to how well do you qualify your client. So that's one. Second piece is you have to really understand what are the pain points of the client. You cannot just go on harping about all the good things that you have. For example, gas prices are very low, scalability is, nobody cares. Nobody cares. The enterprise client who is running their business, this is your way of seeing the world. From where I stand, all of these things like scalability, etc., this is hygiene. If you don't have this, you anyways don't have a chance, right? So the idea is to understand what are the pain points of the client, to really understand their core business, and to genuinely try to find out if there is a value that blockchain can add to their life. A lot of times, and I have seen a very nice meme where somebody used a MacBook to hold a door open, using it as a door stopper, right? So it should not be, because I work in a blockchain company that I start looking it's like a hammer and everything resembles a nail. It should not happen like that. So quickly summarizing, so qualify really, really well. Try to understand what your client wants to solve for. And third, especially in blockchain, people have created these entry barriers which are like linguistic in nature, right? There is a whole new language that people have created, zero knowledge, scalability, sharding, this, that. Again, your client doesn't care. You have to talk in the language which they understand and really make a progress there. So this is the third thing that I feel is really, really important. But overall, enterprise clients take time because of the processes, and of course, processes are a very big part. Even after you have an in-principle approval from one level, there are 10 different departments which are working, right? So it's very important to identify the key decision makers, people who are key influencers, people who can be blockers, right? And people who are really important for this process to move forward. Maybe your legal, your marketing, and all of those. You have to really map that out when you are starting. A lot of times, what happens is people will just get into a deal without actually taking care of all of these different departments, and a lot of times deal falls through the gap at a very late stage, right? So we have to take care of all of that. So I think these are a couple of things which are pretty important when you are dealing with enterprises, just because they are like such complex organizations. You have to really clearly identify, understand their pain points, talk to them in their language, understand who are the different stakeholders who can affect this whole deal.
So you touched upon very briefly about scalability. So I would like to ask Pawas about this because you're a consumer-facing organization, right? Current technology probably has matured enough to handle, the data plus the users that you guys have. Like some of the applications have concurrent 5 crore plus users and still not breaking down, right? I'm talking about the live telecast and all those happening. Do you think that blockchain today is ready to, experience that level of scale? If yes, then that you can highlight. If not, when do you think that that kind of scale can be handled by that?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of talk about TPS and all of that. And if anybody is from ad tech, you'll understand that QPS beats TPS every day. TPS will never reach the QPS levels. And that is something that everybody has to understand. The power that blockchain offers is very different. And we have been speaking to a lot of people, and we have seen a lot of solutions out there. When it comes to the scale, it's a very different game. Every product, if it is a consumer focused, it is very different. If it is even in the supply chain finance, you have a lot of products which requires real-time data processing. So when we are looking at the chains, we are looking at more importantly about do they understand, like Arpit was mentioning, what we are trying to solve. And what we have typically found is we are being pitched about, we have this capability, and we are standing there, when are you going to ask us about my problem? So, do you want to know what my problem is, what I'm trying to solve? Because, see, a large organizations and like us, we try to have very impact-based applications. And everybody here is talking about, wow, India is a great market, and that has happened because of Geo. Yeah. The number of internet users that has been added, about 500, 600 million, that is why we have a tech-savvy population which is going there. Now, can you give a blockchain solution to all of them? Possibly yes, but it is going to cost you. It's about understanding that there are pockets that you can apply. And even if in the case that you're mentioning that we may have 5 crore concurrency, so 5 crores is 50 million, I'm assuming, just converting. So 50 million concurrencies. Do you want them on blockchain? No. But do you want their intent on blockchain? Yes. Because that intent can be used in a very different way. So there are pieces of blockchain that we would love to explore. We haven't seen the solution so far, and that's why we are trying to understand that what can we do with the chains that we will eventually partner with? How can we build those solutions which solves for the problems that we are trying to solve? So it's about not having the tech capability, it's about understanding the partnership that what we are trying to achieve collaboratively. Because what I have understood, and which is the great thing about Web3, all the players here, is they are willing to be collaborative. Yep. So it's a very not competitive, but cooperative plus competition is there, that they all have their own flavors, but they want to cooperate each other. Because there is value in blockchain that needs to be done. Specifically for countries like India and a lot of countries where you don't have, say, a health insurance or something like that. Blockchain can easily solve. Anybody who's admitted in the hospital, they can get quick access to aid. You don't have to wait for who's going to pay for it. So there are applications that needs to be built, but it'll take time. Things have to be done on scale. It'll take partnerships. So right now, there are no solutions, at least from what I have seen, and I may be mistaken. Sorry, I'm new to Web3. So that's a caveat I'm always going to put. But would love to understand how we can partner, how we can take small steps, and eventually we'll get there, because we don't need to capture everything about, like, asking us to put 450 million people, which maybe are telecom-based on blockchain. Is it required? Possibly no. But do we want them in some form or shape? Maybe.
Direct, indirect touch points should be there or probably would be there. So one important question that whenever an enterprise starts looking at adoption of blockchain comes to whether they should go the private blockchain route or the public blockchain route, right? Both of you run apply, public blockchain infrastructure. According to you, and you can start and then Arpit, you can add on, what are the key challenges that come across while deciding this factor, whether to go on a private route or a public route? And essentially, what do you think, where would eventually this get settled down? Whether you think more use cases would be deployed on public blockchain or on the private one?
So I think in my opinion, this is very subjective of the use case. So there are no challenges per se, to be very honest. We just see the nature of use case and then we think which is the right chain or the solution where it can be deployed, right? For example, if there is an NFT drop happening, it has to happen on a public forum. And everybody can see the transaction. Everybody can see how many NFTs are there, how many NFTs are sold and left. So this is a use case where you need complete transparency in public, go for a public chain and deploy it. Now, when it comes to having a use case where it can be a hybrid way, wherein you need to put your some transactions to be visible to public, and some transaction has to be in a very private consortium. Like I can give an example of banks coming together, forming a consortium, and they want to do probably invoice check. It could be a use case which is UAE Trade Connect, right? That's a very good use case of a private network. Now what they have done is they formed a consortium of banks. And for example, any vendor has an invoice in their hand, and they usually, what they do right now, they go to multiple banks and say, can you please give me a loan? And because banks don't talk to each other, they don't know how many banks this guy has gone to and asked for loan. It's a big possibility of a scam. Now what they've done is they've formed a consortium, getting all the banks on top of it, and now they're actually validating if it's a good to go invoice or not. So in this particular scenario, you need a complete private chain, right? And the beauty is that, especially for Avalanche, is that we have a public EVM-based network where you can do completely your public transactions, open to all. Now there's one more very important enterprise-grade solution, which is subnets. So in subnets, you can have your own private networks. You can have 4 people forming a supply chain use case, 10 banks coming to create probably a finance use case. And you can have these transactions completely private, can be hybrid, can be completely public if tomorrow you want to do this. This is a complete modular way of looking at things. So I think, in my opinion, there are no challenges. It's just that you have to figure out what is the use case and what is the nature of your transactions, completely public, private, or hybrid. Yeah.
Thanks, Kamakshi. So probably this would be my last question to you, Pawas, and Arpit. You can add on to this, or maybe I can start with you. So UPI in India was probably an inflection point in financial inclusion and digital journey of a lot of enterprises, right? Once the infrastructure was ready, a lot of them adopted it. Do you think that CBDCs are going to be the UPI movement for blockchain?
I think that's a tough one. So I think it depends on what is your intent with launching a CBDC, right? So I think that's the short answer that I want to give. But if you ask me like what can be a big inflection point in all of this, I feel rather than CBDC, it would be something which is much less impactful on the financial side. Maybe something in social side, maybe something on entertainment side, right? So Shimaru launched Shimaruverse today, which will bring this metaverse to a large number of people, right? So that can be something which can bring a large number of people to Web3. But CBDCs overall, I feel that they are in that experimental stage where they're first of all, there are like 10 different ways of architecting a CBDC. There are 100 ways of, what is your intent with CBDC? Why do you want to do it? Why do you want to do it when UPI is there? What are the challenges in UPI that you are trying to solve with CBDC, right? So I feel it will still take time for the concept of CBDC to mature and to reach at that level of UPI, which, acted as that inflection point.
Boss, you want to add on to this?
Yeah, so see, most of the CBDC is coming purely from governments who actually consider that as a sovereign risk, and sovereign risk is real. Let's, I mean, just appreciate the fact that there are geopolitical issues that can hamper inter-country transactions, businesses, and a lot of things. CBDC will have a role. I think it's a evolving space right now because India itself is, I think, trying their CBDC the best form possible. Will it require for everybody to move into CBDC? Possibly no, because the UPI infrastructure is great, but at the same time, convincing banks to take up a blockchain infrastructure, that's too heavy, at least from my perspective, and I may be completely wrong about that. But I think it's too heavy, blockchain. But there are cases where CBDC will really act well if you need those transactions, because UPI, if it sits on UPI, I'm just guessing that it may. So it will possibly help you in international transactions much easily because UPI is being accepted by a lot of other people as well. So the use cases may differ, but I don't think the full circulation of CBDC of our digital currency will happen. And it's a unique case in a country of 1.4 billion people. We have so many digital transactions. It's actually quite amazing what we have achieved.
I think our times is up. We'll just like to conclude. I think after discussing and listening to all of you as well, there certainly is an opportunity out there for enterprises to start experimenting and taking a step towards it. Blockchain certainly, is the next gen technology, and a lot of upside on the revenue side. New business models are emerging, and at the same time, as Pawas and Arpit mentioned, a lot of avenues for actually saving costs and really adding to your P&L on the EBITDA level, right? So those are the things that are there, and it certainly makes for a business case. Thank you so much for having us. Thanks to Hash Emergent for organizing this such a lovely panel, and thank you everyone.
Thank you.
Check.